Thank you, Shruti, for a good introduction. We had so much of data this morning, right? I mean, it's almost like having a nice soup of statistics, different kind of chemical logistics percentages and all. So we thought in terms of the first foray that we get into, let's make it a bit more overarching and then get into the second session, which is more like a leadership dialogue. And you can see that we have a very different set of speakers here. We got a professor sitting there, right? A gentleman who has spent quite a long time, and you will introduce yourself later. Then Aruji sitting next to me from a big organization. And then certainly he is known to all of you because he was there in the morning session. So let's start with you, Ronak. A quick introduction, each of you.
Yes, good morning everyone. I'm Ronak Shah. I'm the Executive Director at VTrans India Limited and CEO of VLogis. And VTrans is a 67-year-old end-to-end supply chain company, essentially providing end-to-end domestic distribution and warehousing services. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronak. Aruji.
Hi, my name is Arush Kishore. I work for Reliance Industries Limited. I currently look after the integrated liquid and gas supply chain, Hazchem supply chain in petrochemicals.
Hi, my name is Raghavan. Of course, I was for 30 years in the industry with IBM Global Business Services and Supply Chain Consulting in the US and later in Indonesia with Texmaco. So of course, currently for the last 4 years, I've been the director for the School of Ports, Terminal Management and Logistics. We have heard so far since the morning the importance of skill-based, and I'm very proud that I represent India's first skill-based university set up in 2016 in Indore, 2017 in Pune. I'll stop there and we'll look forward to the discussions.
Wonderful. Really looking forward to it, guys. My name is Sanjay Desai. Born, bred, brought up and spoiled in Thane. Moved to Singapore in '97. Worked for over 40 years in 11 different brands. Not even one same brand again in my life. Not even the same industry. Since last 6 years, working on my own, doing mostly consulting for SMEs and part of a few supply chain organizations, including part of Singapore government for Enterprise Singapore and a few other Temasek boards and all. So take a lot of pride and passion in what I do, and thanks a lot for all of you coming in today. You could have been watching probably one day or a test match starting tomorrow and then looking at the highlights today, right? India is doing very well, by the way. So thanks a lot for giving an amazing time. Let me start with Arush, and we heard quite a lot, right, and about India's growth and China's growth, and then the comparatives and the relatives that we draw. Coming from Reliance, which is one of the largest integrated players in India, chemical forms nearly a quarter of a manufacturing GDP, and $1 in chemical raises $4, and that was Raghavanji also making a point, right, today. Now, what must India do to turn this strength into a $1 trillion manufacturing by 2030?
Great question. Sanjay ji, it's difficult to follow Selvam ji's, especially on the numbers, etc. But let me give you a perspective. So our Indian industry is about $400–500 billion currently, but we consume nearly $600–700 billion of chemicals, which means that we are already importing quite a lot of chemicals to service our both internal demand and export demand. To reach $1 trillion, I believe we need to focus on two areas. One is at the ideation front, we need to identify products, we need to identify investors, we need to identify funding, and then go ahead and create support structures for those investments to actually fructify on the ground. The other thing that we need to look at is the value chain part of it. So Selvam ji mentioned PCPIRs in the country and how they've evolved over time as a policy. I think we need more of such value-based investments coming out of the government. Put together, I believe, would position us quite well as a country to reach the $1 trillion investment.
Sure. And again, not a lot of dialogue there. But we'll have to stop comparing or even drawing any kind of parallels, either positive or negatively, with China. It's a different ecosystem completely, and there's a lot of investment in 1990s to be able to reach today where they are. Are we doing that? Have we followed that from a policy perspective? So sorry.
So that's a difficult one to answer. So
That's why we got you here.
Yeah. On the whole, I think, though we haven't copied China at all, though we do have certain policy frameworks which are very, very similar to China. For example, special economic zones, industrial zones, infrastructure first, investment, product investment late to follow. So we have those policy frameworks in place. I think where we can do better is attracting global capital into the country. I think that is one area where I think the realization is behind the talk in that sense. And the other area where, and we'll speak more on that a little later, is that while the government, we are living and working at a time where the government is the most responsive to logistics issues.
Yes.
However, there can be, I think the generational challenge still remains efficient delivery of public and private goods and services. I think we need to focus a little bit more on that.
Yes, public and private partnership. Fantastic. Raghuvanji, not getting into your academic hat, but getting your port and logistics knowledge. How do you see India's logistics sector evolving, not just from a performance, but from an ecosystem basis? And what Mr. Selvan said, our logistics costs are 13-14%, global costs are 3 to 4%. We will ever reach those kind of milestones, right? Now, we don't want to reach 3% tomorrow. It is going to be an evolution over the next 10 years. What do you think, how would achieve that?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you looking at the positive side of it, right, as Arush just mentioned, I mean, India has never focused as much in logistics as it has done in the last few years. The fact that for the first time they have gone into what constitutes the logistics cost, and a report coming from the government. Now, whether I agree with the numbers or not, whether it is really 7.96 or not is a question for another time. But the fact is that the government has now set a benchmark. Now, there are other countries who have lower costs than us. So, of course, there is scope for improvement. And as I think he pointed out, that, the potential is enormous in logistics. If you take a look, you were mentioning about comparing with China and others.
Sure.
Take petrochemicals, right? We are talking about infrastructure, but how much of pipeline does India have? US has over 2.2 million kilometers of pipeline, and India's pipeline is hardly 70,000 kilometers. So there is potential. The thing is, but we have started observing it, we are making some inroads into it. Now, whether all these, like he mentioned, the sort of infrastructure that is coming up. Now, the fact of the matter is, how do you bring in all the aspects of multimodal, and are we planning, whether be it the ports, whether be it the railroads, the infrastructure, are we planning it well? Is a point up to debate. For instance, a lot of ports people are arguing, why would we want a Vadhavan port when we already have a JNPT port? Is that in the good interest? Of course, there are people who argue in favor of it.
Sure.
So, at least, whether be it the PM Gati Shakti plan, and the amount of investment is going, but whether it is enough, as he pointed out, if you want to get inflows of funding, you need to go into a public-private partnership. Will the government alone be able to do it? Massive infrastructure? Probably not. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did, and you actually brought in two elements there. Keeping the people element out of it, right, or the political element out of it. Ronak bhai, given what Raghuvanji said, right, how would VTrans adopt its logistics infrastructure and services to meet the next 10 years downstream transportation logistics demand?
Thank you, Sanjay bhai. I think very interesting question. If you were to see, there are three major areas as far as chemical logistics is concerned, which are of prime importance. Firstly, around infrastructure. Secondly, around safety and sustainability. And thirdly is around the compliances. So, the compliances definitely, the regulatory compliances, the logistic policy, ICC playing a major role in, being, I think, the institution that is, sort of a lighthouse, for the entire industry. So a lot of content, a lot of knowledge is being shared by them. So around the infrastructure and the safety and sustainability bit, we are geared up at VTrans. We've been investing, a significant part of our reserves every year in building not only grade A level in warehouses across. Last year alone, we've added close to 0.5 million square feet of warehouse, specially catered around chemical industry, around different parts of the country. So definitely infrastructure is something. We've also been adding, vehicles, especially CNG vehicles and electric vehicles also, for reducing the carbon footprint, not only for, other industries, but specifically around chemical industries also. And around the safety and sustainability bit, there is a lot of investment going. One would be surprised at the amount of, nitty-gritties that a company needs to take care, when they are storing chemicals, for, the hazardous goods particularly. There is a lot that goes in, both in terms of infrastructure as well as, the training for the manpower to be able to know what to do, when to do, and how to, safely handle the chemicals. So a lot of investment is going around that. And sustainability, definitely, I think, around, whether it is solar, whether it is, I mentioned, CNG and EV vehicles, whether it is, in terms of also, planting trees. So we at VTrans are also very consciously offsetting our carbon footprint by tying up with, NGOs, where we, fund, these NGOs to plant trees, and that to fruit-bearing trees. So the farmers on whose land these trees are planted also get a source of income once the trees become large enough. And this is properly tracked through MISs, which our team, reviews, and, the progress is, definitely tracked. So yeah, so I think these are some of the points.
Yeah, Ronak, you said three things. One was infra, one was safety, and then was compliance. I'm thinking 5 years back, if I had asked the same question, I would have seen cost as one of the three parameters today. Today, you are including more of safety and compliance. Is it a kind of a change which is brought in by industry and your client base, or is it something that is your own credo as an organization?
See, cost, Sanjay bhai, is a very relative term. I think, now today, one thing that I can probably acknowledge is that people have started to understand the value, that, they get, when they basically spend a certain 100 rupees from their wallet, and there are takers for all kind of services. There are companies who really understand the value that the service provider is bringing on the table and are okay to even, bear a part of the cost, because ultimately, if we were to talk about quality, we need to definitely invest. And I would say that, this investment should be treated as an investment rather than a cost.
Yeah, perfect. And hence the insistence on compliance and infrastructure so that you are able to take care of your next 10, 20 or 15 years as well. All right, it's a more of a sustainability aspect. I would like to turn, is RG sitting here? RG has left at the right time. Yeah, because he's our compliance guy, and I'm sure he would have been very happy to hear safety and compliance words coming from somebody. Any questions, comments here? Let's go quick instead of waiting for the end. There is no end. We go in between. Any comments, questions, anyone?
Let me add to the safety bit.
Of course.
I think he's absolutely spot on the cost aspect of safety and compliance. It's really not a cost. It just becomes a lens through which you look at your operations, and it releases efficiency. Whether you monetize that efficiency or you don't is a managerial decision. However, the efficiency is there to be had on the table if you look at your own operations through the dual lens of cost, of safety and compliance.
That's a different perspective in terms of looking at a lens and then purely by experience that to do that. It's like a Reliance credo basically?
Yeah, as in, just in my department, over the 5 years, and I think RG has been a witness to that, over the 5 years, I used to run about 3,000 unique tankers across India. Today, I do the same job with roughly 1,800 tankers.
Yeah.
So, the efficiency is there to be had. And the only reason why we reached this number is because we started looking at safety and compliance seriously.
Absolutely. Exactly what Ronak brought at point. Staying with you, Arushji, and since you talked about tanker, let's get more dwell into the feedstock.
Yeah.
Right? And then Reliance has got such a huge amount of feedstock and then the supply risk associated with it. How is the industry securing reliable and competitive feedstock?
So Sanjay ji, here, firstly, there are too many moving parts in the world today.
Yeah.
Even in India and
too many moving parts and one gentleman.
Yes. So that creates the complexity. But however, here is where our colleagues in logistics have really excelled and supply chains have really excelled. Wherein now it's not a question of disruption or interruption. It's just a matter of maybe a temporary increase in cost, maybe a higher logistics cost to get material from elsewhere or send material elsewhere. So the agileness and the resilience of the supply chains and the logistics have made this difference, that what could have been a major disruptor is now just an issue of temporary costs pass-throughs.
Yeah. Is this newfound knowledge came after 2021 rather?
Yes, I think when we went through that crisis,
Sure.
most of us, especially in India, came through alternative ways to organize, alternative ways to earn. There was a lot of investment and thought into technology. I think when you look at people, process, platforms, each company came to its own equilibrium at that point of time, discovered its own equilibrium at that point of time, and then things have only improved from there.
Yes, it's a need-based innovation, right? And talking about innovation, Raghuvanji, back to you, right? Again, not more from an academic or a book perspective, but more as just now Aruji said, process, technology, or even your people, right, or business model, you believe could make a biggest difference in shifting India's dependable domestic supplier to be a trusted exporter in the sector. And in the morning we had a lot of statistics in terms of where our exports are in chem or pharma versus what the global exports are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, see, certain things we have to take from the West and certain things we have to alter to meet our reality of the country. Yes, there are large players in the chemical industry, but it's also a fact that there are small and medium players too in the chemical industry. And also when you look at the fragmented supply chain, so you look at different players and partners. Now the thing is, how do you ensure innovation happens, or how do you ensure that in consulting, we always say that a trusted advisor, right? So if you want to really grow exports, people abroad need to believe in you, need to trust you, whether it is in terms of consistency, whether in terms of giving them visibility. And the only way to achieve that, whether we like it or not, is, as Arush pointed out, the platform economy, right? And of course, since he's from Reliance, who else to say that they themselves are recently launching and looking at India as an artificial intelligence firm. So I think you got to build a digital infrastructure, and once you build a platform and connect the different segment. And this is not going to happen automatically. Clearly, the government, and since you rightly mentioned, needs to play the role of a facilitator, because if you are going to build an infrastructure and get different third parties involved in it, it is not going to happen easily. You need to create the ecosystem for it. You need to have a platform. And I think that is where the government's role becomes critical.
Yeah, perfect. And taking that forward, keeping the government role a little aside, we always talk about the government role and what government should do, right? What we should not do, what we are not doing too much. Ronak bhai, considering what Raghuvanji and Aruji pointed out, right? Especially as a 3PL service provider, you have many clients and they are at a different types of their engagement, their skill set, their capability as well as passion to grow, understand your ideology and work with you on a longer term basis. What is the role of a 3PL today in terms of innovation and in terms of investment in people or investment in resources? And how would you define that role today versus probably 5 to 7 years backwards?
So, Sanjay bhai, there has been a dramatic shift in terms of the investment that has happened, both in terms of people and technology. If we were to talk about our own journey, we recently, went live with our new ERP system, which where we basically invested close to 3 years, partnering with different consultants and different companies. And this ERP now has successfully been integrated with 5 systems. So there are 5 systems which talk to one another, ultimately to empower our clients, where we not only want to improve the visibility of the cargo, whether it is lying in our warehouses or it is on roads or it has gone for the last mile delivery. So I think visibility is definitely one part, but we are also trying to empower our clients, with respect to very important documents, where in the distribution business, proof of delivery is a very important document for the clients, not only for getting the visibility whether the consignment has been delivered, but also for billing to their clients, where a lot of companies require the transporter proof of delivery that needs to be attached along with their invoices when they basically send it to their clients. So this is definitely something that we are empowering our clients through a platform or a mobile application that we've developed for our clients, and also with regards to having visibility around the billing and the payments, where our clients can physically, they don't need to physically receive any bills. All the bills, everything is available on the platform. And if they want to even make the payments, there are digital gateways that the platform has enabled for our clients. And also what we've done is we've also empowered our clients to raise tickets, in case of any issue. So basically to ensure a faceless ecosystem where, they don't need to be dependent on any particular representative from our company. They can straight away raise the ticket on our platform and, within a short turnaround time, the respective, person will reach them.